You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Hey, we're coming here with a great podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for being here. As always, refer the show to your family, friends, or relatives. Give us a 5-star review over there on iTunes. We really appreciate it. The Chris Voss Show, 13 years and going, the family that loves you, it doesn't judge you. Who knew that was going to happen? So anyway, guys, as we approach our 13th year, we're really happy to have you guys with us this month alone. At the end of this month, I believe it's September 31st it's October 31st or September 1st. We hit 30 and we're up 30% just this month alone from what the crazy numbers that we always have. So thank you for sharing the show out. Thanks for telling all your friends, and hopefully you're going to make us a great crowning achievement here at the end of the month. We certainly appreciate it. The thing just doubles and doubles every year and does all the years prior every year for the last 3 to 4 years. So we're kind of excited to see how the numbers come on the end of this month. For the show, as much as you can. Go to LinkedIn.com, our big LinkedIn newsletter over there, and also go to our big group of 120,000 on LinkedIn.com. All of our groups, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads.com/Chris Voss. Thanks for tuning in. We've got an amazing author and business mind on the show. He's the author of the book, Find Your Six. Stop lead generating and start building influence. It just came out. Well, it came out September 1st, 2021. Is there a paperback coming out, Patrick?
There is actually at the end of this year.
There you go. So we have a pending paperback. Patrick Kilner is on the show with us today. He's going to be talking about his amazing book and everything that's in it and what he's learned over the years. So at least what we can cram into 30 minutes to an hour. He is the author, of course, Find Your Six, a speaker and businessman. He's created and led 3 companies, collectively the Kilner Companies, 2 in real estate and 1 in training services. Over 2 decades as a real estate agent and entrepreneur, Pat realized that traditional models of transactional lead generation weren't fit for the modern world. Searching for an answer to propel his business to new heights, he studied the philosophies that have governed business for thousands of years and landed on one simple principle. A network of trusted influencers will always be a professional's biggest asset. Welcome to the show, Patrick. How are you?
Great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Awesome sauce. It's good to have you on. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebage.
You can just go to patrickkilner.com or findyoursix.com. Either one takes you to the same place, and download all sorts of free resources on the book. Learned a little about me. Kick the tires on the book. We get a bunch of free stuff on the website, including the first chapter of the book.
Nice. So is this your first book?
It is.
Awesome. What motivated you want to write this book?
Well, I guess a couple things. I had been training people in my organizations for a number of years and was training people outside of those organizations. And of all the things that I was training, when I would get to training them on how to build networks, they said, I've never heard anything like this. You should write a book about it. I've never seen anything about building networks and how to become disruption proof as a result of the networks that you build, like anything that you like what you're bringing out here. So that motivated me. And frankly, I think that just the personal challenge of writing a book, so many people say, I've got a book in me. I'm sure I can do it. I thought, well, there's probably a lot of people who say that who just don't sit down and make it happen.
It's true.
And so I wanted to become a better writer and hired a great editor who kicked my rear end for 2 years while I made this thing happen.
There you go. I mean, people think it's easy, but man, it's not. I mean, when I wrote my book, last year, I had a whole crew of people that were like, we were in what do you call it? We were in an accountability group. Mm-hmm. And the accountability group's goal was each of us would need to write an hour a day on the book we were working on. And I had some really good people, and we're supposed to cheerlead each other, and they did a great job cheerleading me and them. hopefully. But in the end, they just all fell away, and I was the only one who finished.
How many people were in the group initially?
6. I think 6. I think there were 6, and then I think we went to 8 because 2 people joined midway, and then they fell off. But it was at least 6. So
only you finished it.
Only me finished it. And we would post our hours every day. And so, we would all just start like doing an hour. And then I started, you could see me ramping where I was doing 3 to 6 hours, and I've owned companies since I was 18. So I have all these stories, like you, of multiple companies and building them and stuff. So I have all these stories. I'm like a griot that's been walking around telling my stupid stories for 35 years. So it was really easy just to put it all down on paper, kind of, but then the formatting and the editing. But I'm glad you got through it. A lot of people just don't realize how hard it is. And I think that's why when you become an author, people are like, ooh, can I touch you? And you're like, no, stay away from me.
Right. Well, and learning to get your butt kicked on a regular basis and being open to that. Like,
yeah,
you know what? I haven't done this before, so I probably suck at writing.
Yeah.
Like, I write emails every day. I write stuff for people to study every day, but I don't write books in the form that this thing came out in.
Mm-hmm.
And man, thank God for good editors and people who were willing to give me really, really great feedback along the way.
Yeah. And it's brutal too, man. I mean, like the editor, you'll hand the editor like, 50,000 words and they hand you back like a page. And they're like, yeah, the rest of that was complete
I
shit.
think you've got something in here.
If you can just expand on these 1,000 words that we didn't throw out, then that would be great. So let's talk about the title of the book. I actually want to delve a little bit into your history. You've owned 3 companies. How long have you been doing business for yourself, or you've been working for yourself?
I've been at this for 20 years.
20 years.
And I got in the real estate space, and I've done everything on, commercial, residential, land acquisition, working with builders. That's been a blast, and built a company that now, if I get hit by a bus, it continues, which is, my definition of a really great company is something that's leverageable like that.
Yeah, but you don't want to get hit by the bus, though.
No, ideally, no.
That's also not.
I just feel a deep obligation to the people who, are in the company who, if something happens to me, and it will at some point.
But what if the people in the company hit you with the bus? Have you?
Yeah, I'm getting
planned for that. Okay, all right.
Hire really good people too.
Yeah, that helps.
You don't see them coming.
That's true. That's true. I tell all my people, if you're going to take me out and my ex-wives, I'm like, if you're going to take me out, just don't let me see it coming. That's the main thing. Just short, sharp shock.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to stand still, just let me know if you want me to stand still. I don't want to see the sniper scope. I don't want to see the flash. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to be smiling and happy and probably not around you, not you personally, but the ex-wife. Anyway, so what types of real estate have you been in? Like, give us
so the residential side. So your classic, I got in as a real estate agent. What you think of, a classic real estate agent, cut my teeth, but simultaneous I had a mentor who taught me also the commercial side. So I got kicked out of buildings, going door to door, trying to figure out how long people's leases were, all of that stuff in my 20s, as well as doing that on the residential side, learning the scripts, pounding the phones, looking for people who couldn't sell their house, who I was going to come and save them and, be their new fiduciary. And, as they, oftentimes, by the way, when you're calling people who fail to sell their house, they're pretty disgruntled. So that was like getting your teeth kicked in every day. And then, we now do at this point, land acquisition, work with developers. That's really cool, fun stuff. You got to know what you're doing to be able to do that, because you can mess up stuff pretty easily. But, and picking up rentals and building portfolios for folks that way as well, which is a lot of fun. So kind of that's part of the beauty of this industry, is that you can do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. You got to become really good at a few things early on that enable you to fund the rest of it.
There you go. And so you wrote this book. Where did the title originate from?
So a lot of people think, well, it came from a military background, like, who's got your 6? And that's a little bit on purpose. It's a bit of a coincidence. And it really is. I mean, if you take that paradigm, it really is the people in your life who have your back, regardless of the market conditions. What I found in business is that people who when there is a disruption, because disruption hits every single type of business, every type of industry, the people who have a deep network with people who have their back are the people who survive disruptions, right? Whether they're personal disruptions, you go through a divorce, you go through, losing a kid, you go through all sorts of stuff. If you have the right people in your life, you're going to stay steady. The same is true in business. And what I had seen is that everything that was fed to me about how to go make business actually happen early on was tied up in this concept that in the book I call lead generation. Now, I have a line item in my budgets that is lead generation. Like, what are you spending in order to make business come in the door, right? It's so pervasive that that's what it looks like. What I found is that the people that I interviewed who had the most longevity in their careers, who had killed it for the most time, were people who had found just a handful of really potent talent that they could build their business around. And so instead of being talent seekers just to build their company, they actually were talent seekers of people outside of their company to make sure that their brand, that what they were doing was indispensably important in the marketplace. And people who had done the lead generation stuff, whether they had been geographical farmers or people, pounding the phones and just grinding for dollars through, learning new scripts, they didn't have anything that was unique and valuable in the marketplace when tech disrupted the marketplace, or when 2008 hit and, half of the real estate agent population was cut from 1.5, to 750,000 people. That's a huge, in 3 years.
Yeah.
By the way, that's an absurdly large industry, 1.5 million people.
Yeah.
Right.
I felt it. We had a mortgage company for 20 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so what I found is the people that made it through that did not have a lead gen mindset. And they had, and this is sort of the message for business owners that I encapsulate in the book, is that when you go into business, it's your job to build it indispensably good, and not just to be damn good at your craft, but also to surround yourself with people that will allow you to continue when disruption hits. So these are the people that are going to refer you business. These are people that are going to act as your board of advisors. So whether you're trying to launch a business, most small businesses fail because they don't have the right advice. And having the right people in their court is essential. Now, you can read all the books you want. I just wrote a book. It's a great book, but you can sit down with somebody who's been through their own trials over the course of 20, 30, 40 years, who's going to distill how to make it in business much better than any book you're ever going to read.
There you go. So, we live in a world where everyone's trying to get lead generation from like Facebook or, TikTok's the latest, biggest thing. People are trying to always generate leads and run ads and blah, 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 blah. What's the mindset then? It's different with your program over that. Yeah.
Well, it was super interesting that as I did the research, we only began using the term lead generation in 1976.
Oh, wow.
Prior to that, we didn't actually, there was plenty of incredibly awesome businesses prior to 1976. I think we can all agree. But what we didn't have was, after 1976, we start to get into a situation where we're treating the consumer as a lead. And as soon as that shift happens, we all know as a consumer what it feels like when someone's just trying to close us to the deal.
Yeah.
Right. And it sucks. Right. We're like, why am I going to trust you? I just know you're trying to sell me something here.
Yeah.
And, there's certain types of transactions. That's fine. Like, what would you like? Do you want fries with that? Okay. You're trying to close me to the fries. And yes, I actually want the fries, but that's a transactional trust. I'm perfectly fine with that. There's other types of business where transactional trust doesn't make you disruption proof, right? So think about how many people do you know who are still travel agents?
I don't know any. I never knew any before either, but
yeah,
I know one actually on Facebook.
There was a bunch.
Yeah.
20 years ago. There's a lot. There was a thing to do. People would get, okay, I'm going to go become a travel agent, right? It's really cool. And I can visit really cool spots. It's basically an industry that's wiped out.
With COVID. Yeah.
but even there's just not that many of them. And you can
online ticketing and online booking and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when your job can be done better by tech, you're disruptible. And so when tech, right, AI just learns how to do lead gen better than human beings, and it learns faster and it does it round the clock. So if what you're doing on a daily basis can be imitated by AI, then you're going to be out of a job pretty soon, which makes your career pretty disruptible. And so if you can position yourself outside of a lead gen paradigm, right? Because lead gen is just being replaced by AI or by people offshore who can do it for cheaper, right? We outsource in most businesses before AI, we just went, hey, we have 50 people in the Philippines smiling and dialing using the same scripts that we taught you, but you live in a much more expensive place. And you have as many hours of the day, waking hours of the day as they do, but they can do it at different hours than you. So what I'm combating is what I've seen over the years is people who end up burning out of their careers because what they've been taught to do and all they ever do is a lead gen approach to things.
And so they think from that angle, huh?
Yeah. And one of the things I'll ask people is, okay, at the beginning of the year, you started off into whatever career you're in. You're a mortgage loan officer, right? Hey, you started the beginning of the year. You had certain goals. How are you tracking towards those goals? We're 6 months into the year, right? 7 months into the year. We're tracking to here. Okay, so maybe you were a little optimistic at the beginning of the year. What tool do you have in your back pocket that's going to bridge the gap between where you are today and where you want to be by the end of the year? Because let's go hit those goals. And they write that tool down. And I'll ask them, okay, well, how many of you are excited about deploying that tool every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week for the next 3 to 5 years so that you can really build the business that you have always wanted? And almost nobody raises their hand because what they've written down is almost all lead generation tactics. And then I'll say, well, okay, you got kids. If you have kids, is that the type of thing that you would want to give your kids in order for them to have deeply fulfilling, flourishing careers in the future? And of course, nobody raises their hand. And so if you are not deeply excited about doing it yourself and wouldn't transfer that knowledge to your kids, then what are you doing spending the precious time that you have on this earth in that type of activity? I classify it as lead gen, and that it's meant to be sort of an abrasive idea, right? Like, gosh, we all talk about lead gen. It's ubiquitous. But at the end of the day, nobody at your funeral goes, he was the best damn lead gen.
That might be the only thing they'd say about me. He was a real jerk and an asshole, but he did generate a couple leads. Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good. So this is pretty interesting because I think you're right. So many people think from lead generating. I mean, I don't know about you, but I always get hit up by those people on LinkedIn who go right for the throat. They don't even qualify you. They don't even warm you up. They don't take you to dinner. They just go, hey, do you want some business? And you're just like, I don't deal in metals. What?
Stop acting like you know me.
Exactly. And it's always funny too. It's like, do you pre-qual? Do you qualify people first? Like, hey, do you use this? No. Okay, well, move on. It's like, it's just, It's always so funny. It's like, hey, they want to sell you something that you don't need. And you're just like, what's going on? But their focus is, like you say, just lead generation, lead. In fact,
do you want to buy? Do you want to buy? Do you want to buy? If not, you're dispensable.
Yep.
What's interesting is that dispensability goes the opposite way. So like millennials say, like, who are getting pitched literally at every swipe, every click online, right? As a generation, millennials are exceptionally good at picking out whether you're authentic or not. Because they're being pitched constantly.
Yeah.
And so if you want to actually win business from that generation, you actually have to come across very differently.
I offer them participation trophies. And then that usually earns their business. I always tell them, if you make a purchase, you get a participation trophy. It works every time. No,
it's amazing.
Those are jokes.
Just like, like my kids in soccer. Hey, you show up, we're going to pat you on the rear end because
Yeah, I give them a star on their forehead.
exactly.
Works better with Jen.
This is going to get a lot of hate posts.
You know what? I lost the 5 people in the millennial crowd, 3 years ago or something. So we're good. That and most of Alabama. But, I think I did a deliverance joke and lost most of Alabama. But I mean, it was 2 people. So they keep coming back because, I don't know. There's a joke there I'm not even going to do. All right. So let's talk about this. What is true influence? Because you're talking about true influence as opposed to just lead gen. How do you define that, and how do you develop it?
Well, and it's really about the people you hang out with, right? So,
now, is that the people from Alabama? No, I'm just kidding.
No, there's not enough.
A callback on that,
right? There's, there's this old. I think it was Jim Rohn who said, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right?
Yeah.
So that is, I think I've found that to be certainly true. You want to get in better shape. It's who are you hanging out with? You want to, have a great spiritual journey. Who are you hanging out with? You want to develop influence yourself. Who are you hanging out with? And so how do you find those people? You want to bring business in the door in a way that the most successful people in your marketplace have done for the last 30 or 40 years. Go hang out with them. Figure out what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go find those 6 people?
Stalk them?
Pardon? Stalk
them?
You could stalk them.
Okay.
Probably not the most authentic way to go, but that's I spend half the book talking about what are you looking for there.
Yeah.
And there are really three ways in which you're looking for this talent. Right? You're looking you're in the talent search. No matter what business you're in, you're looking for talent. You're either looking for talent internally to grow your business through great people who come in, who you can train, who you can mentor, or you're looking for people externally. And a lot of people miss that you're in the talent game externally. So what are the 3 characteristics of those people? It's, for me in particular, I think this is the case, especially in service industries, longevity with people. So one of the things that allows people to establish trust is that you just clock a lot of hours with them. So over the years, I've gotten tons of business from great financial advisors. Why? They clock a ton of hours with people.
Yeah.
And that allows them to establish deep trust. So those 2 things really go hand in hand. That longevity question. So who is spending the most time with your ideal client?
My competitors. No, I'm just kidding.
There's them, right?
That's
Who
true.
are they getting them from, right?
Can I get them to be my influencer? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Hey, they're going to go out of business eventually anyway. So,
I think I did that actually with our first businesses. I wrote about this in my book. We went dumpster diving, but it's probably not the referral influencers that you're talking about.
It could, I've had people actually who I competed with in the marketplace who got out before me and sold me their business.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Which is pretty cool. So don't burn bridges as you're competing. That's maybe but I didn't see them as one of my 6. It just, it happened. But longevity at a very high level. So, when people here's a great example of longevity. One of my good friends and a past client in the legal services industry, selling stuff to lawyers, went in and found the lady at the front desk who had been there for 35 years, who knew if the partner was having marital problems, if they were out on lunch, right? If they were, if they're having a good year or not, if they won that case, she knew everything. She knew where their parking spot was.
Wow.
She had been there for 35 years. The partners trusted her implicitly. She was the gatekeeper to the biggest firm that he ever landed. So longevity, first thing, which enabled her to establish deep trust with the partners. And then the third is the approach to work. And what I'm looking for when it comes to approach to work is somebody who has an owner's mindset. Now, this lady at the front desk had an owner's mindset to her job.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty awesome. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have your name on the side of the building, that you're the owners. A lot of people with name on the side of the building are kind of checked out, but they have other people who are running things and who really feel an ownership of the organization. So longevity, trust established, and approach to work. And you can kind of think about it as a pyramid. There's a ton of people at the bottom of that pyramid who have very short term sort of relationships with their clients, a day or less, who deal mostly in transactional trust. They're just, do you want fries with that? It's a very, hey, if you don't want to buy right now, we don't need to be around each other. And they approach things through sort of a Fred Flintstone, like working for the weekend. Hey, you're paying me to be here for only so many hours, and I'm out, and I'm done with you after that point. That's very much not an owner's mindset. And the people I was looking to network with were the exact opposite of that. They were typically clocking a month or more time with people, and that could take years. They had a fundamental trust insofar as when they were trusted, they made exponentially more money than their competitors or than anybody in their industry, right? So there's people who, a nice bonus if you trust me. Okay, that's sort of like the middle of the pyramid. But the number of people who who are at the top of that pyramid who deal in high-level fundamental trust are very, very few. So now you're looking for really a 1 in 20 talent. And so you've probably hired out of pain, right? Like somebody leaves and you got to fill that position, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're not in the talent game, you don't have a bench of talent. You don't know who you're going to put in that spot. The same is true for disruption proofing your business when it comes to finding the right people in your marketplace to refer your business, to give you great advice so that when disruption hits, because it's going to hit for everybody, you're in a really great position. And that really what's kind of cool about this whole thing is that the amount of time that you have to spend once you find the top of the pyramid people for you is hyper efficient.
Wow.
To the bottom, like, hey, I don't mind talking, by the way, about lead generation when we're talking about a marketing play. Marketing is all about, hey, how many eyeballs can we have on things?
Yep.
When it comes to actually getting people committed to purchasing with you, to doing business with you, to putting their name to you, I want that to be a much more efficient conversation. And so I may have to touch somebody 50 times if I'm doing marketing. But if I sit down with somebody who's massively influential in my marketplace, who has the potential to send me serious business, and I'm making an investment into that relationship effectively, that's going to be reciprocated. At least the 2-to-1 ratio.
And then you do reciprocate back if you're in these relationships with 6 other people, you're reciprocating back and passing leads back and forth, basically. Is that?
Well, and it's not just a lead. It's not just a lead sharing idea. Like anybody can join BNI and do that, right? Like I was part of that, right? And that's, you sit down, and then the whole objective is that if you can figure out, think about this. If you had 6 people who you were trying to figure out how to build their business, you connected them to other awesome people or other tremendous resources for their business, then you made it your job to figure out how to make sure that they could get through any disruption they were going to come up against. They had the internal talent that they needed. They, when you came across a really great resource, because you're in the talent game, you're constantly connecting them to other really influential people. When you do that for other people, there's nobody categorically in their mind who they would want to give business to outside of you.
There you go. I've met people in my life that are real. They're just like monster lead sharing. I know a guy sort of people. And I've met 2 of them in my whole life. And, they'll call you up. They'll say, hey, I met this guy and I think he might be able to help you do business. And they're like this hub. Might be the best way to describe them. And they're like a hub. And it's this, like, Jesus, they know everybody and everybody knows them. Right. And they'll constantly be referring you business and they're like, hey, like you can call them and go, hey, do you know a guy who knows a guy? And, that sort of thing. Not that sort of, not like a Jersey thing. We're like, hey, I know a guy. So I met a few of those and they are quite extraordinary people to have in your life when you can find them. But is it hard to find these people and develop these? And how long does it take to usually develop them? Do you usually find?
So that was a big part of codifying this. What I found is people who had lasted in their careers longest, over the course of their entire career, they basically accidentally found 6. So that was what was interesting about the research on the book, is I sat down with the most experienced people I knew, typically at the end of their careers, and I'd interview them, and the average number of people that were pivotal for them to getting to where they wanted to be and where they had sort of who they had become professionally was just 6 people, which is pretty tremendous. I expected it to be 20 or 30 or more people, but it was just a handful plus one.
Wow.
So that was really kind of a wild thing. Then the question was, okay, what did they do that was accidental to them that I could codify and put into a system for going and finding those people faster? Like, what if you're just starting a business, you're in your 20s, you're just starting a business, and what would it look like if you found your 6 in the first year of being in business?
That would be pretty awesome.
That'd be stinking tremendous. And that's what the book is actually on my website. I give a Find Your 6 challenge. And the premise is I want to kick people off to be able to find these folks in 6 months to a year. And you're looking for a 1 in 20 talent. And if you're having the right type of conversation with one person a day, every single day, but you have to know who you're looking for, and you have to be really artful at the conversation. I spent an entire chapter on the art of those conversations and continuing to invest into people correctly. This is not speed dating marketing, right? This is or speed date networking, right?
It's not that those LinkedIn emails then?
No, it's not that. It's not showing up to like a Chamber of Commerce and handing out as many stinking cards as you can as well.
Yeah.
It's much more purposeful and focused than that. So how to go find those people and have the right conversation, you can do it in a year. And it's like accelerant. It grows. It's just how much do you want to put into the account early on to allow for compounding interest to work for you. You can take your entire career, or you can do it in a year. And that's the idea behind the book is, this does not take you longer. Oftentimes we think, well, oh gosh, the relationship thing, that takes tons and tons of time. Like it's much faster to just do the lead gen thing. Wrong.
In your book, you talk about how to win back time for the most important people in your life. Talk to us about what that means, what that's about.
I'm glad you touched on that. That's I mentioned the efficiency of finding these people at the top of your pyramid. And we have a paradigm in my businesses, which is, spend your professional time, effort, and money on the most influential people that you can find on a daily basis in your business, whoever that is, right? It's going to change depending on the person, the business, location, so that you can spend your personal time, effort, and money with, in my case, it's typically the people running around in diapers who have my same last name, right? Those are the most important people to me, and so I want to go spend time with them. But when I step out the door to go do what I do, I feel an obligation to go spend time with the most influential people to bulletproof my business, no matter what happens, and to have the most efficient use of my time. Because I actually want to put down my phone at 6:00 and have dinner and actually be present to them and not have to respond to the lead that came in at 9:00 in the evening, right? But if you put in the time correctly, you can have leverage.
Definitely. I noticed on your website here, you can order the first chapter if people want to take and sample it. A lot of people go to Amazon, but they can go to your website and
free chapter right on the website.
Get a free chapter, so you can kind of delve into it and kind of understand it more. You talk about how to give the gift of influence to others. How does that work?
Well, think about finding these people. You become the people that you hang out with. You're going to become an influencer. And by the way, when you think about just in a first year, if 5 days a week, you're having one really amazing conversation with a different person every single day, you're going to have an amazing, we used to call it Rolodexes back in the day, right? But you're going to have an amazing group of people that you can refer to others. And you're going to be you're going to be central to that. You're going to be the hub to that. And so what do people need who are influential themselves? They need connections to other influencers. So the gift of influence is really a gift of wisdom. What do people need who have it all, if you will, right? They don't need a new wallet or a new wristwatch. They need connections to other really stinking wise people.
Mhm.
Because, wisdom's kind of the only thing worth going for these days, right? Information and knowledge even is kind of ubiquitous. It's just a few clicks away and a few articles written or read. But being able to wisely deploy your business into the marketplace is the only thing that makes you disruption proof and indispensable. So go hang out with those people on a daily basis. What's cool about this is when you ask people the question, like, okay, now would you do that every day, 5 days a week for 2 hours a day for the next 3 to 5 years and be more excited about it at the end of that time frame? Everybody says, yeah, that'd be a stinking blast. Mm-hmm. But I don't actually believe I'd make money at it yet because I don't have a system for it. Mm-hmm. That's why I wrote the book.
There you go. There you go. Well, this has been pretty insightful. Most people, they think from just that kind of that shotgun lead generation approach, and they don't really sit down and take it from the paradigm that you have. And I've met these type of people. They're amazing people when you find them. And, I think everyone gets used to going to them and saying, hey, do you know a guy that could do this? And they know everybody. Like, they'll meet people and refer you, and they'll be like, hey, I know a guy that you should talk to. Here he is and stuff. Do you usually, my last question, do you usually need to set up with these 6 people a payment, kickback, referral fee sort of
Absolutely
arrangement?
Not.
Absolutely not. So these are people that we're all helping each other out, rocking it.
Yeah. Look, that's what, especially the most influential people, they're not gonna wonder if they're gonna be successful. Mm-hmm. They know they're gonna make enough money. They don't need a kickback. What they need is creative ideas from other people who are in, the one thing that doesn't work, if you're not in a growth phase, you're going to be a relatively weak influencer of people. Mm-hmm. And I know people who are in growth phases well into their 60s and early 70s. They're just constantly trying to grow because it's a habit at that point. And they may be technically at the end of their career, but they're still in a growth phase.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking for is people who have that desire for personal and professional growth. And when you find those people, what they're looking for is something altogether different than just the monetary thing. Because look, we're all going to do a lot of business together. Mm-hmm. And I've had people who I know I'm not going to run across a lead for you, but once a year, but I can add value to your business in a really great way.
There you go.
I can make amazing connections to you. So what would it look like if every day you had one of those conversations, you set up one of those conversations, and you made an awesome connection between 2 badasses in your marketplace, and you were the reason why they connected? Who's the first person they're going to talk about when they meet? It's you.
That person, yeah.
It's you. And so you talk about, like, that's the greatest free marketing on the face of the earth, and you can be the center of it.
Awesome sauce. A great way to think about doing business because, the qualified referrals from people that are smart and trusted makes all the difference than just, going around and sending messages to people on LinkedIn. So maybe what you should do is whenever you get those messages from LinkedIn, you can counter them and just say, hey, buy my book. This might be a better way to go about what you're doing.
We could, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd sell a lot of books that way, Chris.
You probably would. Based on the message I get, I get like 60,000, 30,000 followers, 30,000 max on the thing. The message I get, holy freaking crap. Maybe I'll sell your book for you and whatever. We'll just change leads or something. I don't know.
I'll give you a kickback.
There you go. Thanks, Pat. So, Pat, you also do speaking as well. We should probably throw that in there as we go.
Yeah, I do. There
you go. Pick up Pat for speaking for your favorite corporate event. Pat, give me your .com so people can find you on the airwaves, please.
So, again, patrickkilner.com or findyour6, SIX, all spelled out, .com. That's where you need to go.
There you go. Thanks for coming on the show, Pat. We really appreciate it.
Chris, it was a blast. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Folks, it's Monday. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold, but remember, stay out of those alleyway bookstores. You'll need a tetanus shot, and I got shanked in one last week. So don't do that. I wouldn't buy the watch that he was offering. Anyway, find your 6. Stop lead generating and start Building Influence. You'll want to check that baby out. Watch for the pending paperback coming out later this year. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time.